Benny Johnson, conservative commentator, had a very interesting episode of his show earlier this week. And the timing of this is rather interesting as well because this is coming off, the news that was just released that more Epstein names will be released in the year 2024. Now, these names are coming from a court case. So this is actually a defamation court case in which one of the alleged victims, Virginia, was suing Ghislaine Maxwell for defamation, essentially. So a lot of these are depositions and just information that had been sealed that will be public. And of the names that are being revealed, so the judge actually said that a lot of these names we've already heard of. So it's going to be about 177 names, with 11 names being redacted, given that some of these are victims that don't want their names public and they were victims at the time. A few of the other names, I'm not exactly sure who, but we can expect are recruiters, associates, and also victims. But again, a lot of these names we might already know, and a lot of the information might not be as shocking as previously thought with what is being released to the public at this time. And some of these are actually just lengthy depositions, some of which we've heard some. So it'll be like maybe the whole deposition and not just parts of it. That's not why we're here, though. We're here to talk about this interview that Benny Johnson had with Congressman Tim Burchett. Okay, let's watch this clip.
Congressman, you represent the state of Tennessee. Marsha Blackburn has been completely blackballed in the Senate for asking for these flight logs to be released and for this client list to be released. It seems like now you are fighting with her in the House. Why the protection mechanism? And more importantly, you mentioned recently in an interview that there may be some members of Congress who are personally compromised by this, and they don't want the truth to get out. Can you expound on that?
Has that not been the joke? They don't want it released because they're on it, allegedly. Anyway, that's not even the most interesting part. That doesn't shock me. Actually, the next part doesn't really shock me either. It's just good, I guess, to hear some people maybe saying it out loud. Now, obviously, these are allegations. We don't know who could possibly be engaged in any of these activities, but is it really that far-fetched? Especially when you think about just the wild, especially conservatives, our people, Republicans, our people. It's happening on both sides, I'm sure. But our people, we think to ourselves, why is this senator, why is this Congress, why are they voting for such baloney? They know their base isn't going to be for this. They know these aren't conservative or Republican principles or things that you would vote for. Well, gee, could it be? Roll the second clip.
Sure, members of Congress have been caught up. Why in the world would good conservatives vote for crazy stuff like what we've been seeing out of Congress? It's how it works. You're visiting, you're out of the country or out of town, or you're in a motel or bar in D.C., and some whatever you're into, women or men or whatever, comes up and they're very attractive and they're laughing at your jokes and you're buying them a drink. Next thing you know, you're in the motel room with them naked, and next thing you know, you're about to make a key vote, and what happens? Some well-dressed person comes up and whispers in your ear, "Hey, man, there's tapes out on you. Were you in a motel room on..."
Madison Cawthorn was right about everything. I don't know if you remember, but he was the young senator, I believe out of North Carolina, that publicly said, "I was shocked when I got to D.C. just how degenerate it is." I totally believe that this is very plausible that this happens. I would even take it further and say this probably happens in Hollywood all the time, and we've even heard some of the stories. Anytime you're that public, anytime you have that much influence or that much power, people are going to do what they can possibly do to make sure that you do what they want you to do, that you're their little puppet. And this reminds me of something I actually heard, interestingly enough. This was Candace Owens and what's her name? Brett Cooper from the Daily Wire. Brett's really young. Candace is a little bit older and has been in the game a little bit longer as far as commentating. And she says, I chose not to publicly drink a while back. And Brett Cooper said the same thing. It's just, I see what happens at some of these conventions. I see what people can get on you. I realize that I have influence and that I have a platform, and I don't want to screw it up by doing something stupid. And let's be honest, in a lot of these areas, there are people just waiting for you to do something stupid. And I hate to say it, but a lot of people that they're not, our politicians are not the most attractive of people all the time. Some of them are rather a bit socially awkward. So imagine they get to DC, they get this high profile job, and then all of a sudden you're getting attention and all of these things from people. People are cozying up to you, they're telling you what they want to hear, and the whole time they're trying to get you in a position where now they have a little bit of power over you, because if you have nothing to hide, you hide nothing. And I hate to always bring up Donald Trump, but sometimes I remember him too. I'm like, they really didn't have that much on him. If they did, don't you think he'd be in jail? If they had anything on him whatsoever, they couldn't. And unfortunately for him, he was so open about, and he is so open about a lot of his flaws, that it's hard, and people love his flaws. They embrace it. Donald Trump doesn't drink either, which I didn't even mean to bring that point up several times, but he has actually said publicly about him not drinking. He was like, could you imagine if I did drink? That would just be trouble everywhere. And when you're a new person in Congress, a lot of your job is raising money. Up to 4 hours a day you spend fundraising.